Hey, Ray DelVecchio here from websiteprofitcourse.com. Today, we're going to walk through putting together this food blog that you're looking at right here. And you can see this has a very professional look. And you might think it takes a ton of work to get there, but in fact, we're going to use a starter template that's going to make it really simple to build this layout easily with only a few tweaks here and there. The theme and plugins that we're going to use are going to make the layout design a lot easier, and within a couple of hours, you can have yourself a blog just like this, where you can start publishing content immediately. And in addition to putting the blog together, I'm going to briefly touch on how you can turn your blog into an e-commerce website where you can sell either physical or digital products. If we go over here to the shop page, you can see I have one product available. Here's the product page. So without further ado, let's jump into this tutorial. The first step is the same regardless of any blog or WordPress website that you'd like to launch. You got to pick your domain name and choose a web host. And I recommend 3 companies to start with. I'm going to quickly go through each of them just so we can get into the tutorial as fast as possible. But I just want to mention that if you'd like a more detailed review of each of these hosting companies, I'll include a video where I go through that in the top right here. And if you'd like more detailed tutorials on how to get set up with each host, I'll include those links in the description below. The first one is the most affordable, and that's HostGator. If you go to this link here, websiteprofitcourse.com/HostGator, that'll take you to my special offer where you'll get a better deal than what's advertised. I highly recommend them if you're looking to save the most money. You can see here that you can get started for as low as $275 a month if you go with a 3-year term. You can either click the Get Started Now button, or if you scroll down, you'll see the various plans available for you. If you're just starting one website, I highly recommend the Hatchling plan. Just click the Buy Now button, and that'll take you right to the checkout page. This is where you can search for your domain name. Once you have the Hatchling plan selected on here, you can choose your billing cycle. And the longer the term that you go with, the lower your monthly price is going to be. You can see here it's actually $271 a month, which is lower than what they were advertising right there. And you just have to fill out this page, go through it. You can uncheck all of these additional services. You don't need them to start. Just make sure that that coupon code at WPC1 is entered here. And just so you know, I'm an affiliate for HostGator along with these other hosting companies. If you sign up using my links, that's the best way that you can support this free tutorial. Like I mentioned, if you want to see a more detailed video going through how to get set up with HostGator, check out the links in the description below. The next option is Bluehost. They're also one of the most popular hosting companies for beginners. And actually, WordPress recommends them as one of the starting web hosting companies that you should go with. So if you go to websiteprofitcourse.com/Bluehost, that'll take you to their homepage where you can get started. They are slightly more expensive than HostGator. And the reason for that is because they have slightly upgraded technology. So all you got to do is click the Get Started button on the Bluehost homepage. And the other thing is they don't give you the option to go month to month. You have to go with a minimum 1-year term for Bluehost. So just choose your term here. And just like with HostGator, if you're only setting up one website, you just need to start with the basic plan. And if you ever need to add on websites, you can either go with a new hosting company or just upgrade your account. So click the Select button. Pick your domain here, or if you don't know your domain, you can just click the I'll create my domain later link and then fill out the checkout page. Just like with HostGator, you can uncheck these package extras to save a little bit of money. Just click the submit button when you're good to go here, and you'll have your web hosting account created. The last recommendation for hosting is the one that we're going to use on this tutorial, and that's SiteGround. I recently migrated a handful of my websites over to SiteGround. And I really did that because I like testing out the different web hosting companies. And also when you start with a new web hosting company, you can get their introductory deal like we're mentioning here. All of these companies give you a better offer when you sign up first as a new customer. So if you go to websiteprofitcourse.com/SiteGround, that'll take you over to the SiteGround homepage. These are your options here. And really, these are all on the same platform. They're kind of just marketed based on how you're going to use it. So they give you web hosting, which is just generic web hosting, WordPress hosting, which is the same thing. They're just going to automatically install WordPress for you. And then WooCommerce website hosting, which means that they're going to install WordPress and WooCommerce together so you're set up to sell products online as an e-commerce platform. So if you know that you like to sell products, you can use the WooCommerce option. It really doesn't matter because you're going to be able to do this on the back end when you create your website. So I recommend that you choose either one, WordPress or WooCommerce. Like I said, the technology is the same between either of them. So if you click on the Get Started button, you can choose your plan for the Managed WordPress hosting. And the thing about SiteGround is that they're going to be better performance out of the box than either HostGator or Bluehost. So if you like to upgrade slightly on the performance side of things and get set up from the get-go on a little bit better technology, I'd go with SiteGround. Now, there is other managed WordPress hosting companies. Most of them are usually about $25 or $30 a month. You'll find a lot of YouTubers that recommend them to start with for beginners. I don't recommend you do that, because if you don't have any traffic and you're a complete beginner, I think that's a waste of money. I think that money could be better spent on either learning other tools like advanced plugins that are going to help you with your blog, a professional theme that's going to help you with your layouts. And the thing about hosting is that you can always upgrade it. You know, if you go with a beginner plan for your first year and you start to build some momentum and get traffic, you can move and migrate your WordPress website over to better hosting when that time comes. So to get started up here with one website, click the startup plan. Just like with HostGator or Bluehost, you can go through their checkout page and their checkout process. Pick your term from either 1 month, 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. And once you pay for that, you'll have your web hosting set up. Once again, to see the setup process in more detail, check out the links in the description below. I have tutorials for each one of these web hosts. And I have to mention that I don't want you to overthink this. So many people get bogged down by the tech details. They don't know what the difference are between the web hosting options. And I'm here to tell you that the web host you choose is not going to make or break you. As long as you have a live website out there and you start learning WordPress and publishing content, that's what's going to build your audience and move you forward online. I think a good analogy for this is, you know, you're a first-time home buyer. Maybe you just got married, you don't have any kids, and you want to buy a house, and you look at $500,000 houses that are 4,000 square feet when you only need a couple of bedrooms and a small backyard. There's no reason to go for the most expensive web hosting package when you're just getting started, when you can always upgrade when that time comes. So once you have your web hosting set up, that's where you're going to want to install WordPress. I go through that in all the tutorials and the links in the description below. We're going to go ahead and do that right now with SiteGround. Right now, I'm on my SiteGround account, logged in, and under the Websites tab, and this is where we can create a new website. So I'm just going to click this big orange button. We can either link this up to our existing domain, register a new domain, or in my case, since this is just a tutorial, I'm going to do this on a temporary domain. So that's what I'll click here. We'll just click continue to get started with installing WordPress. SiteGround has a really great migrator if you'd like to migrate a website from another hosting company over to SiteGround. I got a full tutorial on how to do that. If you'd like to check out my channel, you should subscribe and go through my videos. I want to link up a bunch of videos on here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to hit the limit. Since we're going to start with WordPress, we're going to start a new website, install a new application, and they're going to give you a prompt here. And this is where I mentioned that you can either just install WordPress by itself, or if you'd like to install the WooCommerce plugin to begin with, just click the WordPress plus Woo option. So that's what we're going to do. And this is where you create your login details for WordPress. So they just ask you for your email address and password. So I'll type in my email and generate a secure password here. You're going to want to copy that, make sure you save it, and hit the continue button. As you can see here, I use a Chrome extension and add-on application called LastPass to manage all my passwords. Whenever you set up a new password, it's going to automatically ask you if you want to save it. So I highly recommend you use a password manager of some sort. And they're also trying to upsell you here with a little extra, the SG Site Scanner. I'm not going to add this on. We're just going to click the Finish button. And they're going to create our WordPress website, which we're going to be able to log into within a couple moments here. And we got the confirmation that we're all set. Let's click the Go to Site button, and you can see we have just a blank WordPress installation. The way that we can log into WordPress is just by adding on the /wp-admin for any WordPress installation that you have. When you add that to the end of the domain, that's going to take you to your login page for WordPress, where we can use the credentials that we just used to set up the WordPress account. So from here, we will log into our WordPress account, and SiteGround has a little plugin that gives you this wizard once you first log in. I'm just going to exit this, and that's going to take us to our WordPress dashboard, where this is also a SiteGround specific dashboard based on the plugins that they pre-install. And this is something a lot of hosts do. They'll set up your WordPress website with a bunch of plugins pre-installed. I normally like to delete them. So the first thing I normally do over here is just go to the plugin section, and this is what was causing that dashboard to show you the SiteGround specific dashboard, this WordPress starter plugin developed by SiteGround. We're going to deactivate that and delete it because we don't need it. That's just that wizard that helps you out. but we want to learn WordPress as plainly as possible. The other two plugins installed here we're going to keep. Obviously, we chose to install WooCommerce, and the SG Optimizer plugin is also developed by SiteGround. That's what keeps your website performance top-notch. WordPress has a lot of other plugins that work across any website host for performance optimizations, but SiteGround does it specifically so it's matched perfectly to their servers and how their servers are set up. So now that we're good to go here, the first thing I want to do is make sure that we're on an HTTPS connection. WooCommerce here is giving us a little warning. It's saying that we're not on a secure connection, and that's important if you're accepting payments. You don't want to accept payments if you're not on HTTPS. So look into how your web hosting company lets you set up that HTTPS, which is an SSL certificate. We're going to go back to our SiteGround account and go to our site tools for this website. This is where we can install the SSL certificate. If we go over to the security section, SSL manager, we can select our domain, and this is the temporary domain. And we're just going to do the Let's Encrypt certificate, which is a free SSL certificate so that we have our secure version of our website ready to go and accept payments on. And this may take a couple minutes. I know on HostGator, sometimes it can take up to 24 hours for everything to connect, your domain to connect to your website host, and the SSL certificate to be linked to your domain name. So anytime you're just getting started, you set up a new account, I highly recommend you just give it about 24 hours to 48 hours for everything to propagate so that it's all connected. And if you have any issues, go to your hosting company, contact their customer support, and they'll be able to help you out. Now that we have our Let's Encrypt SSL certificate installed, we can go back to the WordPress section. And in order to view our website, you can just hover over this My WordPress or the home icon, click Visit Site. And if I copy and paste this domain, you'll see it just says HTTP. If I put the HTTPS in there, we should see a padlock. So we got that. We're good to go here with HTTPS. If you get a warning page here on Google Chrome, that probably just means that your SSL certificate isn't ready yet. But once you get that padlock, we can go over to WordPress and go over to the settings. And this is where it's going to show us our default WordPress address. So what you want to do is just change this HTTP to HTTPS for both your WordPress address and your site address. And we're going to save that. And it's going to log us out because we need to log back in under the secure version. So let's log in. And I actually have an old password here stored, so I got to copy in the new one. We're good to go on HTTPS. We're ready to set up e-commerce if need be. And really, every website should be on HTTPS nowadays, even if you're not accepting payments. One of the cool features of the SG Optimizer, which that SG Optimizer plugin just adds this menu down here. It lets you enforce HTTPS, which means that if somebody does, for some reason, go to the non-secure version, it'll just automatically forward. I think that's under the environment optimization here. You can just click on Enable HTTPS, hit the Confirm button, and that'll just make sure that everybody that's viewing your website is doing so on the secure version. If you're on another host and they don't offer an optimization plugin built in, if you go over to the WordPress plugins and add new, under the search bar here, just type in really simple SSL, and you should see a popular plugin pop up, which does the exact same thing that enforce HTTPS setting does. You just want to install it and activate it. It's got 5 million active installations. So those are the first steps that you want to do to set up your WordPress website the right way. Now we're going to get into designing the theme and the layout. And I think you're really going to love this part because of the starter template, which is going to give us 90% of our design. The way to choose your design is by picking a theme. And let's go over to Appearance Themes. This is where we can see our installed themes. So WordPress comes by default with the themes that their developers put out, and they name it after the year. So you can see they have 2019, 2020, and 2021, which is the active theme. For this tutorial, I chose a theme called Kadence WP. So if we just click the Add New button up here and do a search for that, you'll see a few other themes pop up. And I'm going to choose the first one, the Kadence theme. We'll install it. We'll activate it. And when you activate it, they're going to give you this little pop-up here that shows you they have starter templates available. So we're going to take advantage of this feature so we don't have to build from scratch. So I'm going to click Install Kadence Starter Templates. And then this is where we choose a builder. So Gutenberg is the built-in content builder with WordPress. It's how you edit and update your posts and your pages. Elementor is a plugin, one of the most popular page builder plugins that works with any theme. So if you already have experience with Elementor and you enjoy using that, you can choose Elementor. But I'm going to go with Gutenberg because, like I said before, I want to do everything with as many of the built-in WordPress features as possible and only add what is absolutely necessary. And they have starter templates available for a lot of different topics depending on what kind of website you want to build. You can see here you got a freelance website, a web agency website, a real estate, a course. We're going to scroll all the way down for the recipe blog. So like I showed you before, they pretty much build in this entire design. When you choose that, you can choose your color scheme if you'd like. It doesn't really change too much. It kind of just changes the primary color and the accent colors. So if you click this clear button, it'll just revert back to the original design. You can pick your font family. So this gives you a primary font family along with a secondary one. You can see the first one here is Montserrat and Source Sans Pro. I think one of these has just a single font family. Here you go, Work Sans and Work Sans. So for simplicity, I'm going to do that. I kind of prefer sans serif versus serif. And then down at the bottom here, they show you that you have 2 required plugins to get this starter template. You need to install their blocks plugin, the Kadence blocks. We're going to dig into that when we go through the posts and the pages. And then because it's a recipe food blog, there's this plugin called Recipe Card Blocks by WP Zoom. This gives you a great looking layout for designing recipes on your post pages. And in addition to that, it has the markup built in where if somebody's searching Google for recipes, Google will know that your blog post is a recipe post. And with their Pro version, it allows people to add their ratings so that you can see the ratings built in with the Google search results. In order to import this, we need to install these 2 plugins, which is going to do it automatically. So I'm going to import the full site. And they just give you a little warning here that tells you that the import is designed for new and empty sites. If you had something built on here, you had settings, widgets, or menus, all that's going to get overwritten. So it's best to do this with a clean WordPress installation. So let's start importing, and we'll be able to see what the import looks like on our live website. And our import completed successfully. We can go over and view our site. You can click this button if you like. I already have a tab open, so I'm just going to refresh it. And there you have it. We have, like I said, almost the entire design completed. And we're just going to dig into these pages and the posts so that you can see what it looks like from the WordPress backend. Let's go to one of the recipes so you can take a look at that too. So you can see how the content displays on the recipe page. And then at the bottom here, you're going to see the recipe card. This is what that plugin WP Zoom generates. So it gives you the pin button, a print button, shows you the servings, prep time, cook time, calories, all the ingredients, which they let you check off here. So it's a really cool plugin for a food blog that I think every food blog needs. Because WordPress is so diverse, there's a handful of recipe plugins that you could add, but I think this is the best one in terms of the design. I like it the most. And one thing that I notice here that I don't necessarily like, it's showing my author name as my email address because that's the username that we chose when we installed WordPress. We had to put in our email address as our username. So I'm going to go over to the users section. We'll dig into that. You go over here to the users page, and this is where we can edit our admin account. So if I click into this, this is my admin account where it's showing my username as my email address. We can put in a nickname here, so I'll just put Ray. And then once we do that, we can display our name publicly as our nickname as opposed to the username. So if I scroll to the bottom here, I'll update my profile. And just a quick intro onto WordPress users. Say for instance you wanted to create another admin account without this email address as the username, you can go ahead and do that. You can add a new account, create an admin account, and then delete this existing one. The other cool thing about users is that when you add a new user, you can pick the role that that user has access to. Somebody viewing the website can create an account as a subscriber. With WooCommerce installed, you can see they have a shop manager role. And then also if you have somebody writing blog posts for you, you can give them the author role. If you have somebody writing blog posts and editing existing blog posts, you can give them the editor role. And each one of these roles gives people a different level of access to all the options within WordPress. So the cool thing about that is, you can hide some of the admin options from people, but still give them access to the posts and the pages. It's just a really easy way to collaborate with people. Next up, we'll go through the WordPress settings. So if you click here on the settings tab, it's just going to go to the general settings, and we'll go through a couple of these other sections as well. This is where you can edit your website title and tagline. So if you go back over here to the home page, or really every page, it looks like it has our title right there. So we can edit that by changing it right here. I'm just going to make that My Awesome Food Blog. And to niche this down a little bit further, I'm going to make the tagline sharing recipes that help me lose weight. Now, I don't know if this is displayed on here right now. It doesn't look like it is, but that's usually an option where you can pop that in if you'd like the tagline to show. You can also change your time zone here. With the post, you can schedule a post to go live in the future, and that's going to depend on the time zone you pick. So you can either go with the universal time, or if you scroll up here, you can pick your time zone based on a city. Same goes with your date and time format. You can match that to your location. So let's just save our changes here. We're going to go over to the reading section. I normally don't do anything here with the writing section. You can set your default post category. Right now there's just a category that's called uncategorized. And with that starter template import, we got these other categories for recipes: American, breakfast, dessert, entree, and Italian. But you don't have to edit anything here right now. We're going to go to the reading section. This is where you select where your blog posts show. So usually by default, WordPress blog posts are displayed on the home page. In this case, we have a custom layout on our home page, and that's because with that import, we changed our setting here for our home page to display a static page, and you can pick whatever page is available from this drop down. And then you also create a blog page, and in this case, because it's a food blog, our blog page is our recipes. And if you look, we have a couple other pages here that were automatically created because of WooCommerce. The cart page, the checkout page, the My Account page, and the shop page. So between installing that starter template and WooCommerce, we have a lot of our infrastructure already built out. If you go over to the discussion page here, this is where you can edit your commenting settings. You're probably going to notice that you get spam comments if you leave it open to anybody. So you might want to check this box here where the users must be registered and logged in to comment. So I recommend you just go through these settings, figure out what you need to check off or uncheck in order for your comments to display as you want. And then you can pick your default avatar down here. Or if you don't want to show them, you can uncheck this box. So let's save those changes. The media settings, this is where you define the pixel width and the height when you upload a photo to WordPress. So anytime you upload a photo, say you upload a really massive photo, it's going to automatically give you these three various sizes: thumbnail size, medium size, and large size. And it's according to these dimensions. You can see a large size is 1024 pixels by 1024. The medium size is 300 by 300. And the thumbnail size is 150 by 150. This checkbox here makes that thumbnail a square as opposed to doing proportional to what the original size was. And then on the back end, if you go into your file system on your web server, you're going to notice that your WordPress uploads go into a month and year based folder structure. That's the way it automatically organizes them. If you uncheck this, I think they just all get lumped into one single folder. So you don't have to change anything here if you don't want. I'd say the most important setting here is the permalinks, so we're going to go over to that. By default, this has already been changed because of that starter template upload. You normally have this setting on the plain setting, which gives you your pages as this query-based URL, which is a little bit funky. You get that question mark P equals, and then you have your page ID. Obviously, you don't want your URLs to show like that. So what I always recommend is just setting them to the post name. That just makes your URLs really simple. You just got yourdomain.com / whatever your title name is for that post or that page. This is already set to that. We don't have to do anything here. And then with WooCommerce, down at the bottom, you have settings here for how you want your shop page to display. It's showing our shop page under /product. I actually prefer shop. It's just a little bit shorter and simplified, so I'm going to change that to shop. If you want to include the category, you have a lot of products. You can also include the product category within the URL. But the theme today is simplicity. So we're going to change that to shop. And let's save our changes here. And we're good to move on to the next section, which is the menus. Now, I just took a couple days break here between recording, and I have a quick detour before we jump into the menus. You can see over here you have a little notification telling you that there's one new plugin update available. So if we go over to the plugins, this is an important concept that is worth explaining. Plugins are developed by third-party companies. You know, it tells you right here by Kadence WP. That's who creates the starter templates and the blocks. WP Zoom, like we mentioned, they create the recipe card blocks. SiteGround creates the SG Optimizer, our hosting company. And Automatic, which is actually the company behind WordPress, they develop WooCommerce. And there's thousands and thousands of plugins available. All of these plugins get patched up with new features or security updates. And you can see right here that we have version 1.10.9 installed on the Kadence blocks. They put out an update 2.0.3. So if you want to check out what the differences are, you can click on that. They'll show you the changelog here. And I'm just going to go ahead and update it. I usually do this with all my plugins. I just update them right away. I have to give you fair warning that if you have a ton of random plugins installed, occasionally they may conflict with each other. Occasionally a plugin update might mess up something with your site. In my experience, that's very rare, especially when you're dealing with big companies that are very reliable. And this is why I recommend installing the minimum amount of plugins necessary to get all the features that you need. You know, I like to limit it definitely below 10 plugins per WordPress installation. If I can get below 5 or less, that's perfect. And you can see here we only have 5 installed right now. And then if you don't want to have to go in here and update these plugins manually, you can enable auto updates. So you can click these buttons over here to enable the auto updates for each one of these. And again, you know, just in case anything goes wrong, you want to make sure that you have a backup system in place. SiteGround automatically does backups. Some of the more affordable hosting options may not have automatic backups as part of their hosting package. That's something that usually comes with all the managed WordPress hosting, which is, like I said at the beginning of this video, costs a little bit more, somewhere between $25 to $30 a month. But there are plugins that do backups, so that's something you just want to look into. And just like the plugins get updated, the same thing happens with the theme that you have installed and also the WordPress core software. So you might see a notification up here within the dashboard section, and you can check out all your updates from over here. Right now, it's telling us that we have the latest version of WordPress installed, all our plugins are up to date, and all of our themes are up to date. So with that said, let's move over to the menus. So we just need to go to Appearance Menus, and this is going to show us our main navigation menu, which if you have a fresh installation of WordPress, you may need to create this yourself. Because of that starter template, we already have it done for us. We have our home page, the recipes page, which is our posts, and then we have the subcategories, or I'm sorry, the sub menu items for each category: dessert, entree, breakfast. But we actually do have a couple other categories over here that are not included on that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'll put in American and Italian. And they're going to just append them to the end of this menu. You can drag and drop, and we can make this alphabetical order. And I just need to finish it off with the Italian there. So that's our primary menu. And if we look down here, you can automatically add new pages. So if you create a page over here, if you want to just automatically put that onto the primary menu, you can check off this option. I usually don't do this just because sometimes I want to create some pages or test pages that might be hidden, and I don't want to clog up the menu. And then down here, this is linked into your theme. So this display location determines where this menu is appearing on your theme. So we have a couple options here: our primary, our secondary, our mobile menu, and our footer menu. So right now this menu is everything except the secondary menu. So let me save that. We'll go over here and refresh the page, and you can see our new category items added to that sub menu. Down here in the footer menu, that's what we got over here, and you can see that they don't show the sub menu items on the footer menu. It's just the simplified top level menu items. And if we test out the mobile menu, let me use this little applet here to allow us to resize the page. You can see what the mobile menu looks like. So we have our blog name up here in the top left, and we just got to click the menu item there. We have our top level menu items and the drop down there to get the categories. So that's what everything looks like, and we're going to add a secondary menu here. So let me just exit out of this. go back to our menus page. And to create a new menu, we just got to click this button right here. And our secondary menu, I'm just going to make this for the WooCommerce pages. So we're just going to call this Shop Menu. I'll check this off as the secondary menu. We'll create the menu and then we can add the pages to it. So I'm just going to add My Account, Cart, and Shop. And if you'd like to rename a menu, by default it just uses the page title. You can shorten this up if you want. You can just put account on there. We'll save the menu. And then if you ever want to go back to the other menu, navigate between multiple menus, or create even more menus. For instance, you might want to create like a popular posts menu, something like that. You can just use this drop down here to select which menu you'd like to edit. And now with that secondary menu selected, let me go over here. I don't think this updates by default. I think we have to customize where that secondary menu is appearing. So with that, we're going to go into the Customize section of the Appearance menu over here. And the Customize section is both linked into WordPress default settings and also theme-specific settings. So if you install a different theme on your blog, you're going to see different options here within the Customize section. Whoever developed the theme, whatever company made that theme, they get to determine whatever options are available for you to customize. You can see we have a lot of options here. Because of that, I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I have a few pointed out that you might like to edit. And I highly recommend that whatever theme you choose, you familiarize yourself with these customized sections to see what you can edit. I'm just going to quickly pop into the general section, and you can see even with the submenu we have like 10 different options here. Scroll to top, layout, sidebar, colors. This is what we picked at the beginning of that starter template. Now if we scroll down, you can see this is the scroll to top button. So let me click on that. You can choose a different style for that, and you can see it update over here. We have a design tab. So right now it's just an outline. If we fill that, you can see that that's a filled block, filled square right there. So let's just publish that. That's just a quick little edit there. What I want to get into is that secondary menu. So with that, I want to put that up in the header, and I'm going to replace these social icons with that secondary menu. So if we go into the header section, this is showing us how we can use those blocks to build our header. So right now we have the top row with an HTML element. If I click the settings here, you can see that that HTML element is this subscribe call to action right up here. And if you need to edit that, if you want to edit the link, you can do it from here. You can see right now it's showing us the demos.cadencewp/food link. So you're definitely going to want to edit that link. Or you can completely change that. If you want to eliminate it, you can do that. I'm just going to leave it as is for right now. Down here, this is where we can edit our primary navigation and secondary navigation. So our primary navigation, that's fine. I don't want to do anything with that. Like I said, I want to replace the social icons with that secondary. So I'm going to exit out of that to delete that, and I'm going to drag this secondary navigation over here. And you can see that that adds that WooCommerce secondary navigation menu to the right side of our page. And the last item here on the bottom row of the header is the logo. So you can play around with this to design your header. I'm good with how this looks right now. So I'll publish those changes, and I'll navigate back here. We're going to go to the footer section and take a look at that. And just like the header menu, we have options here to customize. So I got the social links at the bottom, which is why I deleted them from the top. We have our footer navigation, and you can make some adjustments here if you'd like. I'm completely fine with the way this looks. And then you have the copyright statement, which you can edit, and it looks like they have some placeholders here for the copyright, text, the year, the site title. And actually editing the footer is usually not built into many themes, so that makes this Kadence WP theme pretty cool. That's one thing that a lot of people complain about with WordPress. It's usually not that easy to edit the header or the footer without digging into a little bit of code or customizing a little bit more in depth. Usually you need a premium theme to do that. So let me go into the social menu here, and because this is a food blog, it would make sense that we would have a Pinterest account, and I'm also going to add a YouTube icon to this. So if we add a social icon here, you can see all the options they give you. So I'll add YouTube and Pinterest. We can choose an icon style. You can see how that changes. All of these have that circle element, but the icon style is just the inside. So I like having them filled out. Let me see if Instagram has a different one. Yeah, so I'm going to change all these to the more filled in icons. And there you go. Updated them. Like many of these customized sections, you got a design tab if you want to make any adjustments. So I'll publish this and go back again here. So the next thing I want to edit here, if I go into one of these recipes, you can see at the bottom after the recipe we have similar posts, related posts. So if I check out the blog post section, we can edit our single post layout, and you can kind of build this blog post layout how you'd like. So we have the breadcrumb section, which isn't showing. You can see that because this item visibility is crossed out. Now if I toggle that, you'll see the breadcrumbs pop up, and that is really just the navigational structure to get to this individual post. So you can see we have the home page, our breakfast category, and then the title. Now because we already have our categories here, which that's displayed because of this section over here, we probably don't need to show that breadcrumb. So we're showing our categories, we got our page title, our meta information, which that's this line, you know, the author name, the date. And then if we go to the bottom, we have that similar posts. Well, first of all, we have some post layouts here. Let me edit this, you know, just play around with this and see what it looks like. Wow, so that's a full width one. Now, you can see how that kind of messes up a little bit of the alignment with the recipe card. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Let's see what this one looks like. I think that's what we were on before. The first one here is a little bit more full width. Same thing where the recipe card is kind of aligned to the left, whereas this other stuff is aligned center. If you'd like to add a sidebar here, you can put the right sidebar layout. You know, maybe you want to add a little email sign up box on the right side, or a link to a product, something like that. You got the left sidebar layout there, but I liked the original kind of thinner column, one column look here. So I'll keep that as is. You can pick your sidebar if you have that sidebar layout. And then we have our content style. So let's see what changing this does. And it looks like it just gives you like a little bit of a shadow and maybe a gray tone instead of plain white. It's kind of hard to see on my monitor. I'm not sure if it's going to show up in this video. That's not a big deal right there. We're showing the featured image, which is this image right up here. So if you'd like to hide that, you can toggle that off. And that's just going to bring the title up closer to the top. So they got a lot of options built in to customize all this. And then what I was originally talking about here, you got the related posts at the bottom. You can toggle that on or off right here. And then you can choose whether or not you want comments on your blog. That kind of shows you how you can edit your single post layout. So let's publish those changes. Let's go back. And then the built-in WordPress options here from this top level customized page, we already kind of went through them. You can see the site identity. This shows you the site title and tagline. So we edited that from the general settings already. They give you a couple more options here. Let's go back. You got the menus, which, like I said, we just went through that. We got the primary menu, the secondary menu, the shop menu. You got the widgets, which that's available from the appearance widget section. Right now we don't have any widgets, but widgets are just a way to create content and add it to different places on your blog. We have our homepage settings. This is already edited. We did that from the appearance reading section, or I'm sorry, the settings reading section, I believe, where we set the home page and we set the post page. So these are the settings that are built into WordPress already, and everything up here, these are the theme specific settings. And if you do know code, if you come into WordPress as a developer and you've dabbled a little bit with CSS, which that's what makes this entire design. The CSS is what gives you your design on your website. You can put in some custom code here. And in fact, we have one line of CSS, which is this Kadence scroll up, and it changes the cursor to the pointer. So you'll notice if we go over here, we have the arrow cursor, but as soon as we hover over this, we get the pointer. So that just is one quick example of how CSS works to completely customize your design. You can edit width, padding, the way image is displayed, image opacity, fonts, text size, pretty much everything is editable through CSS if you know that code. But because we have all these options built in, it's not a requirement to edit this site. So like I said, there's a lot to play around with if you'd like to edit this site, customize it a little bit. But for simplicity's sake, I'm good with all these, built-in starter template settings. Let's jump into the posts and the pages. So this is where you're going to add and edit your content. Your posts for this blog, that's going to be your recipes. And if you'd like to write other blog posts, you can do that. We'll jump into that next. But I'm going to first go into the pages section. You can see all of the pages that have been pre-built for us, both with the starter template and by installing WooCommerce. We got an about page, a contact page, the recipes page, which is our post page. We have a privacy policy automatically created. And right now this is in draft mode, so it's not published yet. And then with WooCommerce, we have our cart, our checkout, our account page, and our shop page. And then our home page, which is set to our front page when you go to ourdomain.com. So let's jump into the home page right now and take a look at how you can edit this from the back end. And the first time you go into this, you're going to get this little pop-up. This gives you a couple quick introduction modules about the Gutenberg block editing system that's built into WordPress. So you can see here each paragraph, image, or video is a block of content. You can edit each block. You have the block library for different types of content. So you can have a quote, a heading, paragraph, image with media. You can embed content from social media platforms. So really the best way to do this, they give you a link to a guide here, but I think the best way to do it is just jump in and start editing. And then with the Kadence blocks, they add on their own blocks to make editing even easier. And that's what you see right here. That's what this homepage banner is made out of. So if we jump over to the demo of the website, you can see how it looks on the front end. And if we go over here, we can click into here and we can see that we have a row layout block, which is from Kadence. If you click on any of these blocks, you'll be able to edit them. If we click out and go to the bottom, you can see we can add a block here. You can also navigate with your keyboard. If you press the up button, it's going to bring you to the next block and then editing within that block. If you like to add a block in between these blocks, you can do the same thing, add the plus or click the plus button. And if we do that, you'll see all the blocks that are available to you. If I click to browse all this, it'll give us a menu on the left-hand page here. So you can see these are the Kadence blocks. They give you a little bit more of a rich editing experience compared to the built-in WordPress blocks. And then if you scroll down, these are all the built-in blocks. You got paragraph, heading, a list, quote, custom code if you like. So they got a lot of different ways that you can edit here. And then here are all your embeds from different platforms, third-party platforms. The WP Zoom recipe card plugin gives you other blocks here. So obviously you can put in an entire recipe card block. That's what we saw on the blog post that we looked at before. But they also have other ones here, like you can add a nutrition box, which is pretty cool, and it looks like one of the nutrition labels that you'd see on the back of a food package. And then WooCommerce has some blocks built in. There's a lot of ways that you can add content to your page depending on how you want to create this. Since we already have most of the layout in place, I'm just going to go through some of the Kadence blocks. So you can see here, like I said, this is a row layout block, and we have two columns. The left column is our heading with a little snippet and a button. Right now, the right column doesn't have anything, so if you wanted to add something in here, you can do that. And by the way, Kadence, I mean, they also have their own little tutorial here, documentation. If you need any help with their blocks, I'd go over to their website, check out docs.cadencethemes.com. Like I said, I think the best way to learn is by doing. You just jump in here, start editing stuff, save it, see what happens, see what it looks like on the front end. I'm going to jump into the button, and on the right hand side we see our button settings. So you can change the styles for the button here. What I'm going to do is add an icon. So if I scroll all the way down here, it allows us to select an icon. Pretty sure that there's a spoon icon. Yeah, there you go. So we can add a spoon icon there. If you want to change the hover effect, you have the ability to do that. Just like with the customize section, there's dozens, if not hundreds of ways to customize all this stuff. And I like to give the disclaimer to all beginners that it's so easy to get wrapped up into this design work, customizing, and trying to figure out the perfect look. But in the end, what's really going to gain you traffic is the content. It's better to spend time building recipes and publishing those recipes than it is tweaking the design for hours and hours, different colors, spacing, all that kind of stuff. I really recommend that you stick with the minimum editing possible. If I click out to the top level row, you can see that we got the background settings. This is where you can swap out an image. And the images that they put on this website are free stock photos. I'm pretty sure they get all of them from unsplash.com, which is a great website to find free photos if you don't have photos to use. And that way you can get a professional look with professional looking photos without having to take them yourself. Now again, if you have your own food blog, you're posting recipes, of course you're going to want to post your own photos, but in terms of these generic photos, Unsplash is a great way to get them. And you should be able to use this to drag and drop the perspective of the photo, but it looks like something's going on here. This might be a little bug. It doesn't look like it's updating as I'm dragging this, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. This is another thing, the more features built in, the more chance that something's not going to work correctly, which is why I recommend simplicity with all this and not to get hung up with the design side. And then if we scroll down, we have the latest recipe section. This block that we have here is the latest post block. If we scroll down, we can change the number of posts that we want to show. So say, for instance, we want to double this up. Instead of showing just 3, you want to show 6. We can increase the number of that right here, and it'll show our 6 latest posts. You can change the number of columns here to adjust the size of these. I like the way 3 looks. Let's click on this section, and we have another row layout, 1 row. The inner block here is an info box. This is a Kadence block. They give you a few different options for how the info box looks. So it looks like we were using this where the icon is kind of right in the middle of that top of the square. If you like to put it inside the square, you can select that. If you want to align left, you can do that. Right now the info box is linking to this hashtag link, which anytime you see this hashtag as a link, that's just linking to an area within the page that's already loaded. So if I go over here, you can see that link, and if that hashtag link element doesn't exist, it's not going to go anywhere. Because I have a shop page here, I'm going to link it over to the shop page. So let me go back and just copy the link up here to the shop page, and that's what I'll put over here in the link section. We have our container settings. If you want to adjust anything here, the width, the border radius. Let's check out our media settings. And right now this media, I believe, is this icon right up here, the spoon and the fork. Let's see if we change this size to 150, what happens. And you can see it enlarges that icon. And if we click into that, that's how we can edit that text. So I'll change this text to visit our shop instead of this. And then just like the other element, if you want to edit the background photo with this, you just want to click onto the row layout block, that top level block here, and the background settings section. And the last section we have here is these are the individual blocks. Let me click up 1 layer, and we have the row layout block again with 2 columns. We have a heading, a paragraph, and then the Kadence block for a form. You can edit the fields here. Obviously we have name and we have email. Right now the name is optional, the email is required. If you'd like to add any fields to this, maybe you want to do first name, last name, you can click the add field button here. And then the actions after submit, this is where you can hook this form into an existing platform. So you need to upgrade to Kadence Pro to use some of these platforms like MailChimp. I use MailChimp personally for my email list. They do have a few free options here. You can either just have these emails sent to you. You can redirect to a specific page. You can use MailerLite, which is kind of like MailChimp but just doesn't have as many features. And then Fluent CRM, which I've never actually heard of, but CRM just stands for Customer Relationship Management. It's the same thing. It's a way to collect your leads for your website and stay in contact with people. So that way if you have any new recipes, you publish anything, you create a new product and you want to announce it to people, you don't just do that on your website. You want to send it to people's email inbox, and that way they can go back to your website, and that's an easy way to drive traffic to your website. Now, you can usually hook in with any of these platforms. Like, for instance, MailChimp gives you a way to paste in raw code if you want to include a MailChimp form on your website. The only thing with that is it's not going to be styled the same way as this is, the way it matches the rest of your website design. So that's completely up to you whether you want to tinker around with that. There's also a MailChimp WordPress plugin, which is another way to add a MailChimp form without having to copy and paste that raw code. And this is another thing with WordPress. There's usually like 5 ways to do one thing, which it can make things complicated. It can confuse you a little bit. But I personally like that optionality, that if you get stuck with one way, there's usually alternative solutions for almost anything you can think of. I'm just going to update our page right now, and we'll pop over here and refresh it, and we'll see those changes. Now with that background cover image, for some reason that was getting locked to the bottom, and now the head of this person is hidden. But we do see our spoon in there. We got our 6 blocks for the latest recipe posts. We got our shop button, and we didn't make any changes to that last section with the subscribe form. Let me go back in here. I'm going to pop out of this pages section and go back in and see if I can re-edit that background image, because it was definitely working when I tested this a few days ago. So yeah, there you go. Now it's letting you select anywhere here to adjust where that background image is showing. For some reason, the last time I was in here, it was just locking it down to the bottom. So let me update that again, and hopefully that fixes the issue. And there you go. That's a little introduction on, editing a row, the background images, and the blocks within. And just to show you one more section here, I'll add one to the bottom. So I believe that Kadence has a testimonials block. So let's add that. We can select our style for the testimonials. Right now we have one testimonial. If we go over here, we can add testimonial items. We can update the number of columns. So I'm just going to put in 2 testimonials with 2 columns, so they're side by side. I got 2 headshots that I selected from that website, unsplash.com. So if you click on the image icon, this is where you can upload. You also see a tab here with the media library, and this is the images that are already uploaded. This is everything that came with that starter template import. I'm going to upload my headshots. So here I got 2 headshots for these 2 testimonials. And with them both uploaded, I'll just include this one here. And then over on the second one, I can just select from the media library, since I uploaded 2 of them at once. We'll just put in fake names here, and I'll put in some titles, and I'll just paste in some text here for the testimonial. So now we got a couple testimonials on here, and we will update and see what that looks like on the live website. Just scroll down to the bottom. So there you go with editing the home page. I'd familiarize yourself with both the built-in WordPress blocks as well as the Kadence blocks. And then over on this page, you can see we edit all the block settings on the right here. If you click up to the page settings, this is where we can change any settings related to the entire page, like the link. So the permalink right now, because this is the home page, this is right on our top level domain. But say you just wanted to create a page where the title was like 3 or 4 words, maybe contact us, but you wanted the permalink to just be /contact. You would edit that over here in the permalink section. And we'll dig more into the post settings when we jump into the blog posts. So let's do that next. From the WordPress admin area, just navigate over here to the post section, and you'll be able to see the recipe posts that were already created from the starter template upload. We can open one of these to see what it looks like. And let me go back to the live website. I'll open up that same post over here. The first thing you want to do is name the title of your blog posts, and like I mentioned with the pages, that's going to determine the permalink. So if this is the title, the permalink is going to be blueberry-buttermilk-pancakes. And if you wanted to edit that, like you can see here that the URL slug is blueberry maple pancakes. So you can edit the URL to keep it as short or as descriptive as possible. All you have to do is type in the title and save your draft, and once you do that, that's going to set the URL, and then you can go ahead and change the URL, save the draft again, and you'll be good to go. You can see here we just have a standard WordPress image block. I mean, this is really easy. You upload your image, or you pick one from the library. You can adjust the alignment, left, center, right. Over here, if you want to change the size, you can do that. Right now it is a large size image. They give you the dimensions here, and you can adjust it by percentage by clicking on these buttons down here. This is a WordPress paragraph block. You know, the options are very limited with the default WordPress blocks. You can adjust the font size, and they have preset sizes here, small, medium, large, or if you want to do a custom size. So let me just do a new line here. I'll add a new paragraph block, and I'll change this text to large. I'll center it. Change this text to large, and you can see that sets it to 32 pixels, and if you'd like to do it manually, you can set a custom number here. You can select it, bold it, italicize it, or link it up, all that kind of stuff. So the WordPress blocks are pretty easy to use, and then if we scroll down here, you'll see the main block on this page, which is the WP Zoom recipe card block. And this one has a lot more built into it. You can just go ahead and update all of these numbers right here, the servings, the prep time, the cook time, the calories. You can update your ingredient lists. You can add a photo for ingredients if you'd like. If you want to do ingredient groups, like maybe dry ingredients, wet ingredients, you can separate that out through this button here. Then you put in your directions. If you have a YouTube video, you can link up your YouTube video, and you can see here that you add this from the sidebar. We'll go through that in a second. And then any notes you want to add, you can do that. And then, like I mentioned before, the WP Zoom plugin comes with a nutrition block built in. So you can just go ahead and enter your nutritional values, and it'll display this nutrition facts label on your post, which is pretty neat. So let me go back into the card block, and we'll go through the block settings over here. Now the first thing you see is the styles. We have a couple different styles that we can set. The default style, the new design, and I kind of like the new design a little bit better. It seems like it's just a tiny bit cleaner, and it also has that orange color, which kind of matches our food blog's color scheme. Now you can set that new design as the default if you go into the plugin settings. I'll do that in a second here. This is where you set the recipe card image that's displayed right there. You can choose whether or not to show the print button, the Pinterest button. Here's where you upload the video. So you can either upload an MP4 or you can insert from URL. So if you have a YouTube video, just copy and paste your YouTube URL. These are some of the settings and tags that are associated with this particular recipe. So you can choose to display what course it is, cuisine, and I believe they have built-in cuisines here. So if you just start typing it out like Mediterranean, anything like that, Mexican, you can add those tags to the cuisine type. Add a difficulty level. You can put in a couple keywords if you like. And all of these numbers, that's what you were just editing over here, the servings, the prep time, all that. So let's continue to scroll down. There's a few custom labels if you want to add anything that isn't already included within this recipe card. And then down here, this is all that structured data, which when you search Google, this is what tells Google that your blog post is actually a recipe, and it displays some of the characteristics of a recipe. Let me go over to Google and I'll just search this out. So I'm just going to do chocolate chip recipes. Oh, chocolate chip cookie recipes. And you can see how these recipes display here. They have the recipe cards, which are actually showing up top as opposed to the regular results. But then they also show the ratings. And like I think I mentioned before, the WP Zoom plugin doesn't come with ratings with the free version. You have to upgrade to the paid version to do that. I'll include a link in my description below if you want to get set up with their paid plugin. That's a great investment, and that's a perfect example of something where it's better to pay for that than paying for upgraded hosting when you don't have any traffic to begin with. So let's jump back here, and that's pretty much the entire plugin. I mean, it's very self-explanatory. All you got to do is go through and create your recipe, build it on here, and you'll be good to go. This displays it way better than if you were trying to design the recipe from scratch just using the WordPress blocks by themselves. So let's go ahead and update this post. Say for instance you want to update the categories. That's where we go into the post settings over here. So anytime you click on a block, it's going to bring up the block settings. Like I said, you can just jump over to this post tab, and that's going to show you the settings for the entire blog post, including the permalink, which we already talked about. Then you have the publish date. So you can set this in advance if you'd like to schedule it out. You can make the visibility of a blog post private if you want only WordPress users to log in, people that already have an account with your website. And then down here, this is where you can add your categories and tags. And categories are those broad categories that we include within our main menu: breakfast, entree, American, dessert. By default, everything gets tagged as uncategorized until you pick the category. And then if you like, you can add a new category here. And the tags are more just the keywords, so you might want to do maple syrup, blueberry, like anything that might be included in the recipe but isn't big enough to jump up to that category level, you can add as a tag. Then you got the featured image, and that is what shows at the top here. The excerpt is just the a little snippet of the blog post that might appear if that blog post is highlighted somewhere, but as they mention on here, it's optional. And the discussion is where you set your comment settings. So this is where you can either allow or disallow comments. So that's really all there is to creating blog posts. It's very similar to the page creation process, except for you have these categories and tags, which are not included with the pages. So let's go back here, and this is where you can also add categories under this section here. You can either do it as you're writing the blog post, or you can do it from the category section. Now say for instance I want to add a category like snacks, because a couple of these posts that are already on here could be categorized as snacks like chocolate chip cookies. You can add in your category name, and the slug is usually just the lowercase version of that name. You can see over here American, and the slug is just American, all lowercase. If it's 2 words, the slug just has a dash in there. And if you want to manually name the slug, you can do that, but it'll just automatically generate it based on the name that you have. So we're just going to add this snacks category. They show you the count here, how many blog posts are within that category. And then if you go back to the posts, you can also hover over here. You can trash a blog post, which if you do that, it'll go over to the trash section before it's deleted permanently. If you click on the title, it's going to bring up the edit page. You can view it, which that's just a link to the permalink. And then you have the quick edit, which is how you can just edit the categories, the title, or anything like that really quickly. I want to click on the chocolate chip cookie. We'll quick edit that, and we can add the snacks category. I'll do the same thing with the macaroons. Add it to the snacks category, update that. And now that we have that new category added, we can go over to the menus and add it to our menus. So right now we have the shop menu selected. We just got to go over to the primary and select categories, add it to the menu, and drag it to our recipe section. So we got that saved. Let's reload our page. We can see our new menu there, and we should see our 2 blog posts that we just added. So that's pretty cool. It's a great way to organize your blog. And you can see here, even if you're not creating a food blog, you can use the same system with whatever topics that you're writing on or creating content for. So over here, back within the WordPress area, if we go to, let me see where the WP Zoom settings are. So it's the recipe card. If we go to the recipe card section and settings, this is where we can set that default appearance. These are all the default labels for you. If we go to the appearance, this is where you can set the default design. So I'm going to set this to the new design. They got a couple options here. If you want to automatically add these buttons to the top of the post, the jump to recipe, the print recipe. They got the print settings, the Pinterest settings, the nutrition settings, Google fonts. Let me save those settings, and let's go over here, jump into one of these blog posts, and you can see now we have that recipe button and the print recipe automatically added to the front of the blog post. If we click that jump to recipe, it'll just go right down to our recipe card. And that's another good example of that using the hashtag link. If you look up here in the URL bar, you can see that that link is hashtag WPZoom-recipe-card. And that's just an element on this blog post page. So that's why when you click that, it doesn't load up a new page. It detects that element on the page and it scrolls right to it. And then let's click on the print button and see what that looks like. So you can see it's a very simplified one-page version of the recipe, which makes it easy for people to print it out. You know, between the Kadence starter template, the WP Zoom plugin, you got so many awesome features built into this from the get-go that are going to make your food blog immediately better than probably like 70 or 80% of the food blogs out there. It's just up to you to create the recipes and start sharing on social media, start building your audience. So the last thing that we're going to do is e-commerce. I'm just going to quickly upload a PDF as a digital product. We'll create our store. We'll go through a couple of the settings with WooCommerce. You can see we have the WooCommerce section over here, so we'll navigate over. And they also have a little wizard built in to get you set up. I'm going to fill this out with my P.O. Box information. We'll continue to the next step, and they have a little pop-up here for usage tracking. I'll just exit out of that. Choose an industry, and this is food and drink. Now this is where you can select if you want to do physical products or downloads. I'm just going to do downloads. if you do have a physical product, your setup's going to be a little bit more complicated because you got to do fulfillment. They also allow you to do subscriptions, memberships, bookings, all this kind of stuff, but they do it with upgraded plugins. So WooCommerce itself is free, but if you want to do these added features, they give you the price here. Right now they're displaying monthly prices. I think you have to buy these annually. So you can see the subscriptions and the memberships. I'm pretty sure they're built into the same plugin. That's $199 a year. The bookings plugin is $249 a year. The bundles plugin is $49 a year. If we click on the info button and open that in a new tab, it's going to show us the plugin that we have to add over on WooCommerce's site. They have their own marketplace with a bunch of extensions if you need to do anything custom for a particular type of industry or transaction. We're just going to get set up with the most basic setup for digital downloads. So let's continue over to the next step. I'll select 1 to 10 for products. I'm not currently selling elsewhere. And they have some recommended business features to add to the site. I'm pretty sure this is going to add some plugins. So I'm going to deselect these right now. They allow you to accept credit cards with their own payment processor, WooCommerce Payments. They also integrate with MailChimp, so that's another example how you can plug these together with a third-party email provider like MailChimp to take care of your email marketing. But for now, I'm just going to do that WooCommerce Payments. They have WordPress themes. If you're building from scratch and you want to choose a theme that's hooked into WooCommerce and integrated nicely, obviously Kadence, the one that we're using right now, already has that, so we're going to continue with my active theme. And they have a couple added steps here that we need to do to get ready to start selling. So we need to set up our payment processor, obviously add our products, any tax rates, and then personalize the store. I'm going to jump over to the settings and just take a look at these. The most important one is you want to set your currency. So obviously I'm using the United States dollar. If you're in another country, this is where you would select that. Without going into every setting available here, there's hundreds that you can mix and match when it comes to setting up your e-commerce store. You just want to make sure that you set up your payment processor. So you can go over to the payment section. This is where you can choose the payment methods. And we installed WooCommerce Payments, which lets you accept credit cards. So you can enable that, and then you're going to have to go ahead and set that up. You can do the same thing with PayPal. And PayPal does payments on their domain. So it'll basically just redirect somebody over to PayPal to complete the purchase and then bring them back to your website after. There's also other payment platforms available. If you go into the extensions over here, these are basically like plugins specifically for WooCommerce. So if you go over to the payments tab here, you can see that you can add Stripe, which is one of the most popular payment processors on the internet today. Same goes with Amazon Pay, Square. If you have an account with any of these already, or you just want to offer a variety of payment methods, you can play around with these. Or go ahead and look at the other extensions they have available for marketing. You can see that some of these were offered when we went through the wizard. Google Analytics, Jetpack, Facebook, MailChimp, Google Ads, points and rewards if you want to do a reward system. So there's almost an unlimited amount of ways that you can set up your store. Let's go back to the settings here. The one I want to show you is the email section. This is where you can customize your emails that get sent to you. The first three here, the new order, the canceled order, and the failed order, all get sent to your admin address for this WordPress installation. And the rest of these are sent to the customer. You got order on hold, processing order, completed order, refunded, invoice and order details. And over here, you can see these are enabled if it's got the check mark. This one here with the arrow shows that it's manually sent. And if you click on any of these, you can customize the email. So let me just open up the completed order email. And this is where you can put your subject line, email heading, additional content, choose your email type if you want to do just plain text, or if you want to throw in some HTML, like make something bold, include a link. And they give you the variables that you can add in here: site title, site address, site URL, order date, and order number. And this is where you can enable or disable the notifications. So that's what I really recommend you setting up. Go through the emails that you want sent out. Make sure you have a payment processor hooked up. PayPal is the easiest one. And I recommend that you get set up with either Stripe or WooCommerce Payments in order to accept credit cards on site. And just make sure you have the secure HTTPS version of your website up and running with that padlock in the browser bar so that people are confident and that you can securely process those payments. Over here in the advanced section, this is where you can hook up the various WooCommerce pages to new pages on WordPress if you like. Like we saw before, we have these pages created already, the cart page, the checkout page, the my account page. And if you go back to the pages here, you'll notice that the way these are displayed are through shortcodes. So this cart page only has one block here. It's a shortcode block with this code WooCommerce cart, and that generates the entire page, does all the functionality that you need. So with those basic instructions, let's go ahead and create a digital product. Over here in WooCommerce, we have a couple different menus here: the products, payments, analytics, marketing. If you go over to the product section, this is where we can add a new product. So let's just hit the big create product button. And for this, I'm just going to upload a PDF. We'll do a 7-day meal plan. I like to write something really quick in here just so you know what area on the live website that this description goes to. So I'll just type in a quick line there. And down here we have our other WooCommerce information. So these are the product types available to you. And we'll mark this down as both a virtual product and a downloadable product. We'll set the price to $19. If you want to set up a sales price, you can do that, or it looks like you could schedule a sale here. And this is where we upload our file. So if you have a link to that file, you can just put it in here, or if you want to upload it to WordPress, you can choose it and do that. So let's put in our file name, and we will choose our file. Go over the upload tab, select it, and I got that PDF here, and it'll just automatically put in your WordPress file URL. And they also have options here for your download limit and the expiry, which right now we have unlimited downloads and it never expires. And they got one more area here, a product short description. So I'm just going to copy and paste this same line here and just add in that this is the short description. Obviously, you can expand upon this depending on whatever product you're uploading. On the right-hand side of the page, you can add a gallery if you like, add product gallery images, set a product image. And WooCommerce, within the settings there, they have a default thumbnail if you don't upload any images. But I'm going to go ahead and just upload one that's already here. Or I'm not going to upload it. I'm just going to pick one from the media library. So I'll pick this pizza photo. We'll set that as the product image. Just like with posts, you have categories for the products. You can add them here. You can see how the editing between the posts, the pages, and the products, they're all very similar. They all use the same infrastructure within WordPress. But we pretty much are good to go here. You know, we're just doing something really simple to test this out. So let's publish this product, and let's go over to our live website, over to the shop page, and see what that looks like. So now we have our single result, and here we go with the 7-day meal plan. We got our featured product image, and when we hover over it, this little card pops up, add to cart. So let me click on the product itself, and we'll go to the product page. The short description displays right here. That's the first thing that shows up, and then down here, this is where that longer description is. If people leave reviews, they can rate it and leave a review here. You got your product category down here. You know, with a digital product, somebody's just going to order one of them, but if you were doing physical products, they can order multiples. And if we hit the add to cart button, that should automatically update our cart. Hit the view cart button. This is where we check out. So you can see how everything is designed really nicely with WooCommerce and this Kadence starter template and this theme. This is where they can apply a coupon code, and if we hit the proceed to checkout, this is the billing page. And obviously, since we don't have our payment gateway set up, it's telling us that we don't have any available payment methods. But what I recommend that you do is get set up with a payment method. I've done this with my own products on my website. I have another membership plugin that I use, so I haven't used WooCommerce in the past. But I normally like to make a product like a penny or maybe 5 cents, and then go through that checkout process with a real credit card, a new account, you know, on a new computer, a different computer, just to make sure that I'm doing it just like a new customer would be going through that process. And you want to test it out that way, make sure the process completes successfully. You know, check the emails that you get. That's how you can verify it. And once you do that, you're going to have a fully functional e-commerce website. So we're going to wrap up this tutorial. I hope you learned a lot. We have a great looking food blog now. You can sell stuff on it. You got the recipe functionality built into it. We showed you how you can edit your site with the Kadence blocks or the built-in WordPress blocks. If you get set up with a third-party email system like MailChimp, you can hook into that. And you really have the components of a highly successful online business infrastructure at that point. It's just then up to you to create the content, do the promotion, get on social media, and put yourself out there. And I just want to mention the last couple of things that you want to install on your website are Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So let me bring them up here. Google Analytics is important because that's what allows you to track the traffic on your website, and it'll give you your reports. You'll see where people are coming from, whether they're coming from Google search, social media. You can see how they're interacting with your website, how long they spend on your website, which blog posts are performing the best, which pages are generating email subscribers. If you go to analytics.google.com, all you need is a Google account and you get set up. They're going to give you just a little piece of code here, and you just need to copy and paste this into the head section of your WordPress website. That's going to be added to every page. It's going to track every page on your website. I think the Kadence premium themes have an easier way to do it, but you can go over to your WordPress plugins area, and there's a plugin called Insert Header and Footers. Let me search for that. And there it is. And if we install this, we can activate it. That'll give us a new option here down in the settings, insert headers and footers. And this is where you can paste that analytics code. And then with analytics installed, you can go over to Google Search Console. And what Google Search Console does is that shows you your website's performance in Google. So it's not people that are actually landing on your website. It's how your website is appearing on Google search. And the cool thing about this is it's going to show you the pages that are getting shown on Google the most, and also what people are searching in to bring up your website. So that kind of helps you with targeting certain keywords, optimizing pages, and just overall seeing how close you are to being on page 1 in Google for a lot of different searches. And you can normally verify with Search Console if you have analytics installed. So if you do those two things, monitor your reports as well as creating content, that's what it takes to succeed over time online. And I wouldn't expect anything to happen quick. You know, don't assume you're going to be getting 100 visitors, 200 visitors a day within a week or two. It's going to take some time to build it up. But with these tools installed and ready to go, you're going to be set up from day one on a platform that's better than almost every other blogger out there that's starting from scratch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out the links in the description below to get set up with your website hosting and domain name. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm an affiliate for the web hosts that I recommend. That's the best way that you can help support this channel and this free tutorial that you just went through. Be sure that you bookmark this tutorial, either send it to yourself via email, save the link, whatever it takes to come back to it and go through it in chunks, because I'm sure you're probably not going to do all these things in one sitting. Do a little bit of work each day and come back to it each day. That way it's fresh in your mind. If you do too much in one day and then don't touch it for a couple of weeks, it's way easier to forget what you're doing and just give up. I think that if you just spend 10 to 15 minutes every day within WordPress and within these reports, analytics, Search Console, you'll become way more familiar with it, way more comfortable with it, and it's going to turn into a habit. Last but not least, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for more WordPress videos. If you got any questions or suggestions for what you'd like to see in the future, leave it in the comments below. If you made it this far, you're way ahead of the game. So much further ahead than most people who go through these tutorials and just give up. I give you big props for that, and I hope that you join me on the next video.